Welcome to Term 4. Let's start this video by reflecting on the Term 4 teaching and screening. It is likely that by Term 4 there is a significant range in ability evident within your classroom. Ausspeld reminds us, however, that the majority of students, your Tier 1 students, should be keeping up with that teaching sequence and the teaching sequence outline. Your Tier 2 students should be smaller in number and should only be marginally behind. And that probably manifests in that they are still operating at a Term 3 level aligned with the Term 3 teaching sequence and are requiring not a whole term, but maybe 6 weeks or 4 weeks of that teaching before moving into that Term 4 outline. And your Tier 3 students may still be presenting with residual difficulties with the blending and segmenting. It is imperative that we phase out in our junior primaries whole language, balanced literacy reading books and levelled reading books that are characterised by repetitive sentences and an ineffective multi-cueing system. We want decodable text with controlled introduction of those phonic concepts and also high frequency words. Something amazing starts to happen in semester 2 with students reading if they've had that exposure to rich decodable reading material, and that is that students start to fall away or reduce their decoding in favour of whole word automatic reading. Their fallback will always be decoding: tap, sit, hat, shop as a whole word. Fall back onto chin, thin. But the emergence of whole word reading should be coming in before Year 1. There are 2 main strategies to facilitate whole word reading, and these are covered in a blog, but in short, first of all, reading accuracy has to be at 95% before you even start to try and facilitate automatic reading. So we've got to get accuracy first, and then option 1 is repeated reading. Reading that text 3 or 4 times, and by the 4th reading, the decoding should have greatly reduced in favour of a majority of whole word reading. Your other option is continuous reading, different reading books each time, but that the text is giving that repeated practice at the level required and the level that's determined by the early reading screens. In terms of spelling and writing, the majority of your students should be well into stage 1. They may still have a few little residual errors in target 2 and target 3, but their spelling should be really quite strong by now. Your Tier 2 students probably require, the difference is they require slow and steady, and they need some repeated teaching in those digraphs. Your Tier 3 students are probably at a pre-CBC, still struggling with segmentation and some alphabet sounds, and as well as at a CBC level. It's imperative that the use of wiki sticks and letterboards drops away. We need students writing their spelling. And again, an indication of the differences between the tiers are outlined here. It's imperative that we get spelling and writing in place because phonic dictation is really important at this level. So a quick demonstration: Chad had chips, full stop. Chad had chips, full stop. Chad had chips, full stop. What are we going to write? Speak it before you write it. Chad had chips, full stop. Now write it. Waiting, pencils down. Chad had his lunch. Chad had his lunch. Chad had his lunch. What are you going to write? Chad had his lunch. Speak it before you write it. Now off you go. You definitely be trying to move away from the first level into multiple sentences being written within those time frames on the Wednesday, Thursday and Friday, and we keep repeating that passage over those days. Just because they can read and spell those words and reading them with reduced sounding in favour of the whole word reading, but just because they've got those skills in place does not mean we're getting that transference. And that is why dictation is a significant part of semester 2. In terms of your tracking sheets, yes, you have your paper-based screening in terms of reading and in terms of spelling. What you need to do is put the data onto your tracking sheets. Step 1, make sure you've hidden term 1 and term 2. It's not useful so far into quite a lengthy tracking sheet to still have term 1 and term 2 data there. Hide that, term 1, hide term 2, hide term 3. It's still there, but the columns are hidden. You only want your current testing or most recent testing in view. It's imperative that with all of those numbers, you pull down to the bottom, who are your tier 1 students? Who is keeping up with that teaching sequence? In the middle should be the students that aren't quite at a term 4 level, they're somewhere at a term 3 level. Chances are their reading's okay, but the spelling and writing needs another 4 or 6 weeks, and they're in the middle. And then at the top of your spreadsheet, you have students that still likely have gaps with their pre-CVC skills, particularly blending and segmenting, and are really struggling with the CVC reading and spelling. And these may be students that we need outside assessments and diagnoses with, or that you just keep doing your solid intensive teaching, even though the rest of the class has progressed further into stage 1. So your groupings in term 4, link your groupings to that teaching sequence. Which are the students that are operating at this level? Which are the students, your tier 2, that are operating still at this level? And which are your students that are operating at a semester 1 level? That is as simple as your targeted teaching grouping needs to be. Please remember there is online support available through the website. Wishing you an amazing term 4 to finish off the school year and with good, solid information to hand across to year 1. All the best.